Hello friends and welcome back to the channel. Today I want to talk a little bit about the SOS airdrop and the current bull market that's been happening in the NFT space. We'll go over a couple of projects that I've been looking at that are pumping that I'm sure everyone's been seeing. But then I specifically want to talk a little bit about what to do in this type of bull market when you have a smaller wallet. So, specifically under 3 ETH, because a lot of times people say to get into blue chips, but obviously if you have under 3 ETH, it's sometimes hard to get into these larger blue chips. So I'm going to tell you guys my strategy of what I'm doing and what I think could be helpful to people who have smaller wallets. My wallet currently has a little bit above 2 ETH in it, so not a huge whale by any means, but hopefully this will be helpful for people. So before we get into it, none of this is financial advice. You should do your own research on all these projects. I'm just someone that's really interested in the space and kind of have been around for a few months and wanted to give my thoughts on some of these things. Also, the channel is doing pretty well. We're up above 50 subscribers, which is a big kind of milestone for me. So thank you everyone who has subscribed thus far. If you enjoyed these videos or if you want to see what I make in the future, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the subscribe button down below. And with that, we'll kind of get started. And so the first thing to talk about is the SOS airdrop. So the SOS airdrop was something that was given essentially last week, kind of right before Christmas, to everybody that had done any type of trading on OpenSea. And it was a little bit of a a response to OpenSea not doing a token drop. And what they wanted to do was reward people based on the number of transactions and based on the number of ETH that you spent on OpenSea. And so you were airdropped this SOS token. It was made by someone named 9x9x9 and they seem to be someone that everybody knows in the space and have doodles and penguins, and so relatively a reputable source. Obviously they're not fully doxed, but this was the open DAO, and the idea was that you'd get a token drop, and then the eventual plan, which I'm not going to get super into it in this video, the eventual plan could potentially be even making a competitor to OpenSea, which would be a really interesting play, but obviously that's all speculation and this doesn't really have any underlying utility. It's supposed to be a governance token, but obviously if you airdrop a token to literally everybody that's traded on OpenSea, it picks up volume on Twitter, and so this thing kind of rocketed and started trading like 10x. I think it was up to 14x at one point, and so people made tons and tons of profit off of it, upwards of a few ETH, and so that few ETH then kind of went back right into the NFT ecosystem. And the important thing to remember, it's not only people who are already currently trading. It's people who may have lost everything in NFTs, but then they were rewarded this airdrop and now have kind of money to play with again. So it's really kind of pushing the volume in the NFT space. So just to touch on my SOS situation, just so you guys have a clear understanding. So this was my wallet. I was eligible for 72 million SOS. At the peak, this was probably at maximum 0.4. I sold half of it about for 0.13, and I'm holding on to the rest. So by no means did I make a ton of money on SOS, although you'll see on Twitter that everyone's like, oh, I made 10 ETH and all this stuff, and now they're getting back into the blue chips. And that's kind of where I want to talk about the market and why I think it's important to not FOMO in, not get involved with all the hype, especially when you're a smaller wallet. So I only have 2 ETH in my wallet, a little above 2 ETH, and so if you look at some of these projects that started pumping because of this SOS drop, you'll see the biggest one being obviously the mutants. Mutants rocketed above like a 10 ETH floor at one point. If you look at the doodles, everything's cooling off a little bit now, but these are almost up to 4.8, 4.9. Cool Cats was up to 9, I believe, and now it's down to 7.1. Even things that I'm into, Coleman's Universe, which is not a blue chip by any means, this was down to 0.10, 0.11, and rocketed up to 0.2. And this was primarily not due to SOS. I think Gary Vee ended up buying some. So within this SOS bull run, we also had Gary Vee doing, I think it was called Sweep the Floor Night or something, where he was going in and just buying projects that he thought were interesting, mostly projects that weren't have a ton of sales or high floors, and so that kind of pumped up these projects as well. And so obviously that caused people to FOMO in and try to ride that wave. And so the biggest tip I'll tell you is it's never good to FOMO in once influencers already pumping something. Trust me, I've done it a few times and it sucks because you're getting in at the moment where everybody else is already getting in, where that moment is the time to sell. You want to sell during the hype and buy during the cooldowns. And obviously that's a hard thing to do. But that's something that I think you should keep in mind during these bull runs, is especially if you have a lower size wallet. For me, I haven't bought anything during this bull run. And what I've actually been doing is trying to sell more stuff and accumulate ETH. And I think that's actually the best strategy, because my goal is, to get enough ETH to where I can get something that's almost like a mid-tier, not a blue chip, but like a mid-tier solid project. And something like a Dead Fellas, even Roboto is pumped. I didn't get into either one of those, although I thought about getting into them a few weeks ago when they were, 0.6, and Roboto is sitting at like 0.9 now. And so these aren't huge gains in terms of percentage. And that's kind of the thing I want to talk about, is a lot of times people come into the space and they think, 10x, 20x returns. And you can get those kinds of things on mints, because a mint is, 0.03 to 0.05. And if it goes to 0.5, that's a 10x return. But you've only made, about 0.45 there. But if you buy something like a Dead Fellas that's at 0.6 and it goes up to 0.9, or if it goes up to, 1.5, that's like 2xing a Dead Fellas. So it's not as much percentage, but it's an absolute gain of, an ETH or half a ETH. And the benefit that you have with getting into those bigger projects is that they are doxed, or they're stable, and they've been around, and you're not just buying into a mint that could be rug pulled. Or just not do well, because a lot of times mints just get crushed these days. And if you're minting, I think the best strategy is just to get whitelist, and I usually don't get whitelist because that takes a lot of grinding. So my strategy for people during this market is, if you don't have enough ETH, I wouldn't FOMO into something unless you have really, really strong conviction. What I'm doing actually is I'm just holding a few projects that I feel pretty comfortable with. If anything, I may buy another one of those projects if I think that they're going to do well, but probably not, because right now everything would be pumping. So a good example of this is the Littles. That's a project that I have a lot of conviction in. It's a really good team. Wow, OpenSea just sucks in terms of like being able to search for anything. It's a really good team, and like they're at 0.3. So these were at 0.2 last time I checked, which was like a couple of days ago. So literally everything is pumping right now. So I wouldn't even buy these right now, especially because I made a mistake before and already bought them during a pump. So that's something to keep in mind. If anything, what you should be doing is accumulating ETH. And the way I like to do it is I have this extension called SuperSea, which is also how, if you saw on the Littles, it kind of tells me, I'm not a member, so I just have the free plan, but it tells you the floor of a given collection. And this is really nice when you're in your profile, because I can kind of go in here and I can see, oh, these are the floors of these NFTs, just to get a quick glimpse, rather than kind of going into and clicking around in each collection. They also have this really cool calculate profile value, which will go through and just calculate the total floor value of everything in your collection. This is a little bit, you can actually click and view breakdown, and it'll break it down by NFTs. So you can see like my things that are worth the most are the Littles, the IC token, Merge, and Coolmans. And then this is just my own photography project. So this is like not real. And so what I did a few days ago was I actually went through and I looked at things, and I was like, oh, these have like some volume. Like I could probably sell some things. And I got rid of, some NFTs that way. And that was just to collect back as much ETH, because as you can see, look how many things have gone to zero, a ton of them. And so this is basically all trash in here. But that's because I've been selling a lot of things that are worth it. And so that's kind of the way I would go about this market. Take advantage of the pumps. Like this is the time, if you want to get out of the Littles, this is the time to sell it, because you have a pump that's giving you some value. And so those are the things that you should be keeping in mind. Try not to get into the FOMO. You have to really be more disciplined, I think, when you have a smaller wallet, because you don't have much ETH to waste. And because not only are things expensive, but even when things are expensive, gas and transaction fees account for more of your wallet than they do for a whale. And so those are the kind of things that you have in mind. So high level breakdown, claim your SOS token, try not to go FOMO into projects, only get into things you have pretty good conviction in, and probably not many things during a bull run if you don't have that much ETH to spend. Go and download the SuperSea thing. I'll put a link to it down below. It's a Chrome extension. And, check out your profile and see what things you can liquidate and to try to accumulate ETH so that you can move on to some of those more stable projects. That's all I got for you guys today. Hopefully this was a helpful video. I'm trying to be a little bit more real and make more educational content for people who are just getting into the space, because I think sometimes Twitter can be a place where, there's a lot of people are excited, but a lot of people think that everyone's going to make $1 million, and that's just not true. So I just want to keep things real. And I think that, I've done relatively well, not amazing. I've like 2x or 3x my wallet. and so, or 3x my wallet, and so that's pretty good. But you know, it's not like I haven't made 100 ETH or anything. So that's something to keep in mind. If you guys enjoyed this video, I'd really appreciate it if you'd like down below, and if you would like to see more videos I'm gonna make, definitely subscribe to the channel, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.